Hello, welcome back to another episode of Table for Us. I'm your host, Nicolette Royal, and I just want to say, pull up your chair to the table. But before we dive into the episode today, first, I want to give glory to God and give him all the honor and praise because without him, nothing that we do would be possible. Today, we're going to talk about parenting teens while healing yourself. It's hard to parent when the parenting you had might not have been the greatest. And what I mean by that is you're trying to probably break some generational curses, right? That you didn't create. Or in my case, you're trying to be a different type of parent than the parent that you had growing up. Not to put any shade on my parents because I feel that my parents did the best that they could in the situation that they had. But it's hard to be a different parent when the example that you had might have not been the best, right? Or you're trying to parent basically different, right? So in my case, there were some things that when I grew up, in my mind, I was like, okay, I want to do that different if and when I become a parent. But I also had some good examples from my mom. So my mother, in the previous episode, I talked about my relationship with my mom and how she was when I was growing up. My mother was big on holidays and birthdays. So I incorporated that into my parenting with my children. But then there was other things that I didn't want to incorporate with parenting. So when they were little, right, it's always easy to parent the little ones, right? Because they're cute. They're not talking yet. And then when they do talk, they're still sweet. They want hugs, they want kisses and all that stuff. And that part, right, I would say actually, and now that I have adult children, teenage, and then younger ones, I would say when they were little, that was the easiest. Yes, you are waking up in the middle of the night, you're changing diapers. Yes, it may seem like it's a little more expensive because you're buying diapers, formulas, or they're growing. So you're constantly buying new shoes, new clothes. But I will literally say that when they become a teenager, baby, they will test your patience. They will test your patience. There was a few times, and there was a difference between my teenage son and my teenage daughters. When my teenage son, or when my sons became teenagers, it was pretty smooth. It was pretty smooth. It was actually, it was very calm because when they were younger, oh, boys have so much energy and I felt like they got into so much stuff. I was getting phone calls about behavior. One time, my eldest son, they had this big fence around the school because it was up on a hill and it was a very tall fence. And they called me and told me my son had climbed to the top of the fence. And I was like, oh my God, what? My other son, he had these shoes. And let me tell y'all, don't judge me. Because my children were having these growth spurts and always growing, I bought things a little bit bigger so they can have more time to wear it. So he had these shoes that he really liked. They were some bands and they was the slip-on bands. And it was this ledge in the school where he would kick his shoes off purposely. And I guess he decided to turn it into some type of a game. And they called me and they're like, yeah, Makai, he kicked his shoes off up until like he just kept kicking the shoes and then he kicked them up into the roof of the school. And I was like, serious. And they sent the janitor up there to get the shoes. I was so embarrassed and I was so mad because I'm like, why would you do that? For what purpose? So it was always something with my boys when they were younger. Now, my girls, on the other hand, they was a little more chill. The girls, I remember, it was more of they were talking a lot. They was, wanted to yap and talk and stuff. My oldest daughter, her thing was she just had anger issues, right? So she would get mad easily about certain stuff and get sent to the office. But the girls I felt like were a little more chill than the boys were. When we get to the teenage years, let me tell y'all, with the boys, they was chill, they was quiet, they was more mellow. The boys, they're playing on their video games, they're chilling. The most thing that I would have to say to my eldest son was, son, you're being too loud. Even with my other son, that you because they so excited they on the game. Other than that, they was real chill. No attitude problems, none of that. These girls though, there was a few times I thought I was gonna catch a case and I was gonna be in jail because I'm like, I really want to wring your neck right now. And I know I can't be the only one. Teenage girls will drive you to drinking if you don't already drink. Teenage girls, yeah, yeah, they definitely will test your patience. And for the life of me, I couldn't understand why is this happening? Because I had to think back. I was like, when I was a teenager, being a teenage girl, I didn't give my mom no attitudes. I yes ma'am'd her. I was afraid of my mother. That was the thing. She put the fear of God in me. I actually got whoopings. These children nowadays, they need whoopings. That's the problem. They be like, oh, if you hit me, I'm dialing 911, right? These new laws and stuff have caused us to go into the soft parenting. And let me tell you, the children are off the hook because of that. Yeah. I remember one time I smacked my lips and I was in my room at this point. When I was growing up, we had a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. And I remember it was my mother's room at the end of the hall. My sister's room was basically in the middle, and then it was my room. So my room was right not next to my mom. And I remember I don't even remember what it was she said to me, but I remember smacking my lips or huffing or something like that to the extent. And I feel like my mom has superpowers because all of a sudden she was in my room punching me for smacking my lips, and I'm flying into my closet. I'm gasping for air, and I'm like, can't even, one of them where you trying to get the cry out, but it won't come out, all because I smacked my lips. And I'm like, how the heck did she even get here that fast? But that was my teenage years, right? My mom beat my butt. I didn't get to talk back or give attitude or ask why when she would tell me to do something. We teenage these days, man, let me tell you. Not only are they giving this attitude and this sass and this semi talking back, because I think they know when sometimes okay, maybe I went too far. Whereas other times it's like they pushing the buttons. We didn't get to do that when I was growing up. You just didn't. You had to show the utmost respect. Even if you didn't agree what it was your parent was saying or asking you to do, you had to suck it up and be quiet. Now, I don't know what other things my mom probably dealt with raising me, but I know I didn't talk back. I might have did some other things that pissed her off. I don't know. But in today's time and trying to raise these teenage, and then the other thing is you have all these electronics and stuff going on, right? I We ain't have all these electronics. I got my first computer when I was 20 years old. I was so excited. I had got my tax return and I literally spent my entire tax return on an HP Pavilion. Okay, the vibes. Got my AOL internet set up, the dial-up. It made that noise, you know what I'm saying? Like I was excited. It was connected to the phone, so couldn't nobody be on the phone at the same time. When I was a teenager, of course, we didn't have that. Like there was computers at school, but computers wasn't available for you to have them in your house because they was too expensive. I had my own phone though. I did have my own phone. I had a job. I paid for my phone. I paid for what else did I pay for? I paid for my pager bill. I paid for my to get my nails done. I paid for a lot of things. That's the other thing with these teenagers. They want you to give them everything. They don't want to have to earn nothing. And because I worked so hard, and I worked hard because not because my mom told me I had to get a job, but it was because my mom at the time when I became a teenager, she was going through her personal things, so we didn't have money like that. My mom wasn't working. So if I wanted nice things or to have a phone and all that stuff, I had to work hard for it, and I had to, I got a job because one, I was tired of other people picking up the phone when I'm on the phone with my boyfriend at the time and they listening in. So I got my own phone line put in. I love that phone too. It was a clear phone. You could see through it. It was cool. Like we basically like would fall asleep on the phone because it was my phone. I could do that. You hang up. No, you hang up. That type of stuff, whatever. Which is so cute because I see my youngest daughter doing that now, and I'm just like, are y'all really sleeping on the phone? Y'all not even talking to each other. Y'all just on the phone. But I remember doing that as a teenager. The thing, like again, that I said that I didn't do was this whole talking back and all that stuff. So I actually had to take a lot of things to God. Because I'm like, I don't want to catch a case and end up in jail for wringing my child's neck. And I don't want to be the parent that my mom was to me, always putting my hands on my child. So I tried to parent a little different in that sense and listen to them more. That was one thing that I didn't have. I couldn't in my mind, I felt like I couldn't go to my mom and talk about anything that I was going through. One, I felt like she had a lot on her plate and I just didn't want to add my little teenage stuff that I was going through on her plate. So I kept a lot of things from my mother. So I I literally dealt with a lot of traumatizing stuff that I did not share with my mother. One of the things that I went through, and because I went through this thing, I try to open up that line of communication more with my daughters, with my boys too, but they were a little more closed off. And I felt like it was some things that they were going through as males that they just were embarrassed or didn't feel comfortable kind of talking to me about. So I made sure that, my son had a relationship when his dad wasn't around, that my brother was there that he can go talk to, his uncle on his dad's side, he can talk to different mentors and so forth. But with my girls, because of the things that I went through as a girl, I try to make sure that they can come and talk to me about anything. And I think in by doing that, sometimes it kind of blurred the lines to whereas they thought that I was their friend. Like I wanted to have that type of relationship, but then I also wanted them to understand that I'm still your mother. So be respectful. But at the same time, come and talk to me and share things with me. Don't hide things from me. So there was something that I went through when I was a teenager. I was 14 years old. And because of that event, and I'm gonna say it, I was raped when I was 14. And because of that, and I couldn't share that. I couldn't talk to my mom, although I wanted to. But again, like I said, she had her other things and stuff that she was going on. I wanted to make sure nothing like that ever happened with my girls. So I changed things and I would, talk to them and I would, say, hey, you can talk to me about anything. If this is going on or whatever, talk to me, especially when they were teenagers. I talked to them about the importance of safe sex. I didn't want them to be having sex, but if they did, I wanted them to be safe. I, of course, had that conversation about waiting until you're married and you meet your special one. And don't give up your goodies to just anybody because they don't deserve it. You're going to think they deserve it and you love them, but they not. Save that for your special someone when you get married. But I also had to be realistic in the times that we were living in and peer pressure and so forth. And be realistic of just the body, right? With my boys, voice changed, the beard, a little bit of mustache and a fuzz. That was about the most that I really noticed when they became teenagers. But with my girls, of course, you got the menstrual cycle, you got the boobs, you got hips, you got butt, you got it's so much, right? They wanna wear the crop tops and things, and it's like, "Oh no, go change your clothes," because as a mother or as a parent, you wanna protect them, right? And you're like, "Oh my god, you're showing too much skin. That's inviting too much attention. There's so many predators out here. There's so much that you have to be concerned with when you're raising teenage girls." And then with the boys, especially being Black boys, my concern was the police. So when my son started driving, he got his first car, which he bought himself. So proud of him. My thing was him getting pulled over by the police. And God forbid his hands are not in the right spot and they shoot up the car, right? So oh my God, there's just so much things that you have to worry about parenting your children. The other thing is just cyberbullying, right? So that was the other thing I had to worry about with them being teens. And you want to protect them from everything, literally. You want to put them in a bubble and not let them out your sight, but you can't do that. So one of the things that my mother did with me is she literally let me do whatever I wanted to do, I would say. As long as my grades were good, my room was clean, aside from babysitting, I had some freedom to pretty much do what I wanted to do, right? And I did stuff a little different. I wanted my children to, well, I take that back. My mom was okay with me doing certain stuff. She just wanted me to be at home. So no, I couldn't go and spend the night at everybody's house, but they could come over to our house and spend the night. But once I became a teenager and I started working and things like that, I was able to be out more. When my girls became teenagers, I literally was like, no, you need to be in the house. Who is this friend house you going to? What's their mother name and number? Let me talk to them because is there a dad in the house? Because I'm feeling some type of way. So there's a few things or whatever that I definitely did a little different than what my mom did, but I also didn't want to put a short leash on them, if that makes sense. Because I feel like when you put too many controls on your children, then they're gonna start sneaking. They're gonna start going out and trying to do stuff behind your back. And then when that happens, especially with girls, here come I'm pregnant, you still in high school, so you want to have an open line of communication. You want to have some controls, but then you also want to give them a little bit of freedom at the same time. So trying to kind of trying to find that balance is tricky, is hard, especially when your upbringing was different. So one of the things that I remember, or because my girls, they're grown now, they're both in their 20s, but when they were teenagers, also with my boys, is dealing with mood swings, more so with the girls than with the boys. With my girls, it's, because you're dealing with a menstrual cycle, so you're gonna have those mood swings. You gonna have them moments when they want to be all up on mommy and stuff like that, and you're gonna have the moments when it's like, get out my room. Why you bothering me? Why you looking at me like that? Or they faces all scrunched up. I remember having to ask them constantly, fix your face. What's up with your face? Because your body language is giving, you got a problem. And that would instantly, because with my mom, that would instantly make me want to like go upside their head. But I like really fought to not be like my mother in that instance. And I'm not going up nobody's head. I would literally give them space, honestly, is what I would do. Sometimes, actually oftentimes, they give an attitude. Now I'm pissed off and mad because who you talk to like that? Why you giving me this attitude, this and this and that? I'm ready to yell, scream, and all that stuff. But I've gotten it to a point. I mean, again, they're older, but I've gotten to a point now where you have to understand that they're dealing with things as well. That was what I literally had to learn over time, is that they're dealing with things, they're going through something. And even though we're parents, we're like, whatever you're going through, it can't be that bad. That's not true. Because in their life, whatever they're going through is big to them in that moment, whatever it is. And I want to go back to the whole peer pressure thing and the things and cyberbullying and everything and stuff. So there's this with social media, because social media was not a thing when I was a teenager, but now with social media, you have all these things, and whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, there is so much stuff that's going on with social media where there's this perception of how you should look, how you should be dressing to be accepted, or how you should have a boyfriend or a girlfriend at this stage. And if you don't, then, what's going on with you? Or now we have the LGBTQ, where you have a lot of teenagers and even the children where they're dealing with their sexuality and who they are. So there's so much that's going on that us as parents, excuse me, we're not realizing that they're going through. So I would say the biggest thing for me in all of this, after now my children, they're older, is talk to them. Have that line of communication open where they feel like there's no judgment. It's a no judgment zone. They can come and they can talk to you about anything and everything that's going on. Because God forbid you don't want them hiding and sneaking things behind your back. And then you have this situation that happens, and now we have to be reactive instead of being proactive. I know that there's some parents who was like, oh, no, I'm not putting my child on birth control because that's encouraging them to go out there and have sex. With my oldest daughter, I took a different approach. I didn't want her getting caught up in the event that she did have sex. Thank God she waited until she was older for that. But I still was like, you know what? Just be let's be proactive. Let's get you on birth control. And she kind of fought me on it a little bit, but this is actually when she got a boyfriend, because before she didn't have a boyfriend. So once she actually got a boyfriend, I was just like, okay, I don't want you having sex, but again, I know that I'm not gonna be around all the time. And I remember when I was a teen. So I put her on birth control. And again, I'm not trying to tell anybody what they should be doing with their children. I'm literally just giving you my life experience, and hopefully it encourage you to think of a different method in your parenting, right? Okay. Another thing for me was just literally trying to break cycles without breaking myself. And what I mean by breaking cycles, it was the constantly yelling, screaming, hollering. I realized that when my children were younger, I was literally parenting and mimicking what was done to me. So as I got older and I started realizing more, I actually went to a parenting class that was being offered at my children's school, which I'm glad I took that class, because as parents, you're dealing with a lot. You're dealing with different behavioral issues if you have multiple children. You're dealing with your own issues if you're in a relationship or not in a relationship, your job. You're just, everybody's dealing with so much. And I feel like everybody needs some help, or some guidance, rather, I should say. And doing that parenting class actually gave me the guidance that I needed. And when I did that, it changed some things. I started to notice it changed some things. One of the things that was very important for me was I had my mother show up for me when I was younger. And then from age 9, I was on my own. Latchkey kids, what they called us, right? So I basically was on my own. And not because my mother was gone at work or something like that. She was just mentally and emotionally checked out. So I try to make sure that I showed up as much as I can. When I had my jobs, I made sure that my jobs know, like, I am a parent and there are going to be things and days where I need to take off. Are you flexible with the schedule? So I needed to be able to show up for assemblies, or I couldn't show up for everything, but I would try to make sure that I could show up for those things that were the most important. And sometimes I would have to tell them, like, hey, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Or if I'd be like, if you know about this, let me know ahead of time so I can have enough time to basically take off. And that became even more important when they became teenagers. Like my oldest daughter, she was in dance. So they would have these dance recitals and things like that. So I would, hey, what's coming up? Soon as school start, what's on the calendar? What's coming up? So I can make sure that, hey, my job knows I either need to take off early so I can be there or whatever. Because they were looking for me to be there as their support and to root for them and stuff. So with teenagers, you're gonna have that leave me alone, I don't want you. But then at the same time, they also want us to be there and to be supportive of the different things that they're involved in or encourage them to get involved into things. My biggest thing was making sure that they stayed active. Idle time is the devil's playground. So I always made sure that they were involved in something, right? Even more when they became teenagers, I wanted them to be able to enjoy just their childhood and their teenage years, hanging out with their friends, but I also wanted to make sure that they were doing something that was productive, so that they were involved in something. I remember encouraging my daughter, I was like, hey, go out for BSU, Black Student Union. For those of you who don't know, I was part of BSU when I was in high school. I think once I became a senior, I was the BSU president. But before that, I was just a part of BSU. And I'm like, hey, go out for this or whatever. And what about this club and this and that and stuff? But at the same time, trying to make sure that they could balance their schoolwork and all that stuff. It's a full-time job for them, being them, right? So I feel like as parents, we definitely need to be mindful of the different things that are on their plate as well as on our plate. Um, I want to say give them some grace, but I feel like these teenagers nowadays, it's like they get enough grace to where it's just like, stop testing my patience before I take your life. I gave you life and I will take your life type of stuff. No. So just kind of being mindful of those different things that they're going through and really just having that line of communication to be able to talk to them about, how was your day? Because I would get it. They would come home and I'm getting attitudes. And I'm like, well, dang, like, what's up with you? Like, why you what's up? And they were like, oh, this and that happened. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, it was always some girls or something like that and the gossip and the drama and all that stuff. And this person don't like me or this person this and this and that. So things that I remember that I dealt with growing up, I'm like, oh, okay, we still doing this. So encouraging them to love themselves and don't worry about that. That girl ain't gotta be your friend or a girl that was a friend and now they acting all funny and it's like, okay, well, she was never your friend from the beginning. Like you gonna go through these different stages and stuff when it goes to these girls. But I would say the most thing that I can say that is one of the things that I would always try to tell my daughters is stop worrying about what everybody else got going on. Love yourself. Don't worry about what everybody else is saying to you. So now that they're grown women, can't nobody tell them nothing. They literally, and if they looked a mess, let me tell you, I would be the first one to tell them, as your mom, I'm gonna hurt your feelings at home. So when you go out, can't nobody hurt your feelings. Can't nobody say nothing to you that's gonna make you feel no type of way because your mama done already done talk to you about that. So pretty much building up that self-confidence and stuff for them, right? And another thing would be just kind of preparing them, so after they become a teenager, there's gonna be some things that they need to know in growing up. So I had to learn a lot of things on my own. So there were some things that I wanted to tell my children so they would be prepared for it. And then there were other things that I just wanted them to figure it out on their own because I'm not going to always be here. You're going to have to transition from that teenage year stuff where you're going to become a young adult. I'm not going to always be around. Certain stuff you need to figure out on your own. Things that they have available to them now, we didn't have then. I remember we had encyclopedias. We didn't have Google. We couldn't talk into our phone and say, hey, Google or hey, Siri or whatever, tell me this and this and that. We had to literally do research looking in books. So there's a lot of things that are out there. I get it. Sorry. There's other things there's things that they have at their fingertips that they can research and look up. YouTube is a really good thing. I'm actually a student of YouTube University. If I need to figure something out, one time I had to fix my washing machine and or my washing machine needed to be fixed. And it was an older model and they were telling me my warranty that I had on it was expired or whatever. So I went on YouTube University and I looked it up. And you want your children to be more independent and self-sufficient. These children nowadays, they're sensitive, they are lazy, right? And Yes, we want to do everything for them because we didn't have people doing it for us, but you are enabling them. You are handicapping them, basically. So whereas when they do get to that stage, they're gonna be calling you all the time, mom, 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 or dad, dad. You want them to know how to do some things on their own. And in other things, it's okay to help them or meet them halfway. The other thing is that I literally just want to say is if no one told you today you're doing a good job as a parent, I am going to tell you. And the reason I'm saying that is because I didn't understand when I was younger or appreciate everything that my mother sacrificed for me until I became a parent and got older and became older. But I truly, truly, truly am proud of my mother because of the age that she was and the things that she did during the time that she did. But she will beat herself up today, feeling like, oh, I could have did this and I should have did that. No one is perfect. No one is perfect. And although there are parenting classes and there are parenting books and there are this and this and that, sometimes we can't help but to mimic the parenting that we got. But if you take some time and look at where you're at now versus where you were before, if things have changed and they've bettered, you're doing a good job. If you're providing a roof over your children's head, you're doing a good job. If there is food, they can open that refrigerator up and there's food in there. And you know what? Something used to burn me is my children be like, ain't nothing in here to eat. What? There's plenty in there to eat. It's just not nothing in there you want to eat. But let me tell you, what's not nothing to eat. I'm opening the refrigerator and there's literally nothing in there but a pitcher of water, maybe a stick of butter or something. Like that's nothing to eat. Don't listen to that. Don't feel some type of way and feel like you got to DoorDash them stuff all the time. Y'all better go in there and find something to eat. It's some macaroni cups. It's some top ramen in there. Some hot dogs. There's some lunch meat. There's some bread. Make a sandwich. There's food in there to eat. But if you have food in there, you're doing a good job. If your lights in the water is on, you're doing a good job. And if you have a vehicle and you're doing drop offs and pickups, you are doing a great job. Don't let nobody, not even your children, make you feel like you're not doing a good job. If you are showing up, you don't have the finances to provide all the extra stuff, the name brand and all that, but they have clean clothes on, you're doing a good job. We're going to go through our periods of struggle, but as long as they have the basic necessities that they need and the love and attention that you can give them as a parent, you are doing a good job. So I just want to tell you that. I want to leave that with you that you are doing a good job. And if you don't have that open line of communication with your children, I encourage you to have that. One of the things that my children say, because I have multiple, was they felt like they had to share me so much. So on their birthdays and another day throughout the year, I'll have one-on-one time with them. Come hang out with me, specifically on their birthday. What do you want to go do? It's me and you. Or somewhere around their birthday, they get one-on-one time with me. Or like my daughters will have, daughter mom time where we hang out and we go to the movies or we do something or whatever. Have that special time with your children. Try not to be so busy that you're not checking in to see what's going on with them, what might potentially be bothering them, what things that they might be struggling with, whether it's mental, emotional, whatever it may be. Have that line of communication with them where you are talking to them and you're up to date of the current events that's going on with them. And if you're not already doing this, encourage them to keep going. Whatever it is, it may feel like the end of the world sometimes for them, but continue to encourage them that this moment that they're in right now is not going to last forever. I remember some times where I just felt like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I can't believe me and so such such broke up, blah, blah, blah. But looking back, it's like, I done experienced so much more stuff since then where it's just like, but in that moment though, they feel like it's the end of the world. But just encourage them, be supportive of whatever it is they're going through, and just let them know that you are there with them and you're going to get through it together. And my last and final thought, give them to God. Yes, we are their parents, but they were a gift from God. Pray over your children. Everybody is dealing with stuff. There is a spiritual warfare going on right now. Pray over your children. Pray with your children. Pray is probably the biggest thing that I want you guys to take away from this is prayer is key. Communication is the next key. Prayer and communication. And if you feel like something is off, right, and they're not going to talk to you, I encourage you to have them talk to a therapist. My son recently told me there were some things that he was dealing with and some different thoughts that was going on in his head, and he didn't want to talk to me about it. And I'm like, okay, will you talk to a therapist? Because I want to make sure you talk to somebody. He was like, yes, let's get you that therapist. Therapy is nothing to be ashamed of. Okay. Therapy should be part of your self-care. We are all dealing with things. So I encourage therapy, or if there's a school counselor at the school, encourage your child to go and talk to the school counselor. As long as they're talking to somebody that can actually give them good advice, not talking to their friends, or even if they have a godparent, an aunt, as long as they're not holding things in and they're confiding in someone, I encourage them to do that. I encourage you to have that conversation with your child. But sometimes they don't want to talk to their parents about stuff. Sometimes they might feel embarrassed, or they might feel like, I know my daughter, sometimes they wouldn't talk to me about certain stuff because they knew I was that rah-rah mom. So I'm ready to like go pop off and show up, and they'd be like, no, because you ready to go fight and this and that. So it would be certain stuff that they didn't want to tell me. But as long as they have someone to talk to, an aunt, a godparent, but really importantly, a therapist, because there are different tools that therapists are trained to give to us to handle certain situations. So I encourage that therapy. If this episode was something that was helpful to you, or maybe you know somebody who has a teenager and they're going through things with their teenager, share this with them. Hi, I'm Nicolette Royal, and I am the owner of Gym Royalty. So, Gym Royalty is a service business, and what I provide is teeth whitening, tooth gems, permanent jewelry, and piercings. Yes. Now, the piercings that I can do your nose, I can do your ears, and belly button. That's it. I'm not doing anything else. My teeth whitening services, if you're somebody who just started out with and you've never had your teeth whitened, I normally recommend that you get an hour treatment, and then you just every month you get a 30-minute cleaning. So I got started in this last year, actually. Has it been a year? Yes, last year. I went to a conference in Atlanta called Invest Fest, and I had always would see it was Janet Jackson. She was actually the first person that I saw, and she had a diamond on her tooth. And I was like, "Oh, I want one of those." I'm like, "How much that cost?" Or whatever. So I end up seeing a booth at Invest Fest, and they were doing tooth gems. And it's not a diamond, it's actually a Swarovski crystal that you get, and they use well, I use, and I believe they was using the same thing, but I use basically the same dental glue that the dentists use to put your braces on. So if you take care of it, it will stay on there for up to 6 months is what it will last you. So I do the tooth gems, the teeth whitening, and permanent jewelry. So the permanent jewelry was a service that I added shortly after I started Gym Royalty. So I have a bracelet on right now. This bracelet has been on for probably about 6 months. And it's called permanent jewelry because it doesn't have a clamp. So this does not come off. It stays on. The only way that I could take this off is if I cut it off, basically. So I do the permanent jewelry bracelets, permanent jewelry necklace. You can also do an anklet as well. I've seen some people do rings, but I stay away from those. I do sterling silver, gold filled. And what gold filled is It's not gold plated. It's almost solid gold, but it's a percentage less than solid gold. So you have solid gold and you have gold filled. Gold plated normally just means that they've painted over something, but it's actually gold filled. So it'll last you a long time. And it's actually cheaper than getting solid gold. And depending on what it is you're getting, I charge by the inches. But you can find me on Instagram at Gem Royalty. Our services are in Las Vegas. So if you're in the Las Vegas area, you can book an appointment with us to either get a piercing, your teeth whitened, a tooth, or permanent jury. I'll put a link below for our booking site. Yeah. So I'm Nicole Royal, owner of Gem Royalty. And I hope if you're in the Las Vegas area that you will go ahead and check us out and book one of our services. All right. Make sure that you subscribe and you follow for more episodes. But most importantly, I just want to say thank you for pulling up a seat to the table today. I pray that your week is blessed and just want to say thank you for listening. You guys have a good one.